You didn't choose to be an overthinker. One day you just woke up and realized your brain had been running a tab in the background every single day that you never opened but couldn't close. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's just always there. A low-grade hum behind every conversation, every decision, every quiet moment you try to enjoy. And here's the part nobody talks about: that hum is not making you smarter. It's making you tired. It's keeping you one step behind your own life. And if you've ever felt like your brain is working against you, what you're about to hear is going to feel like someone finally turned the volume down. Let's start with something that might make you uncomfortable. Your overthinking isn't random. It's trained. You didn't develop it by accident. You developed it because at some point in your life, thinking harder felt like survival. Maybe you grew up in an environment where being caught off guard was dangerous. Maybe you got burned once by not seeing something coming. Maybe someone somewhere made you feel like staying one step ahead mentally was the only way to stay safe emotionally. So your brain did what brains do: it adapted. It built a habit. It made overthinking your default. And now that default is running even when there's nothing to protect you from. Even on a Tuesday morning. Even when nothing is wrong. Here's what's wild about that. The very mechanism your brain built to protect you is now the thing exhausting you. Imagine hiring a security guard who never goes home, never takes a break, stands in your living room at 2 a.m., pacing, checking the windows, opening the closet doors when the house is completely safe. That's your overthinking brain. Loyal, hardworking, completely unnecessary right now, but unable to stop because no one ever told it the danger past. And this matters because you can't just tell yourself to stop. You've tried. Everyone who overthinks has tried. Stop worrying. Think positive. Just let it go. And for maybe 11 seconds it works. Then the brain goes right back, because willpower alone cannot override a pattern this deep. What changes it is real understanding of what's happening underneath. So let's go there. Your brain has two modes that are constantly competing. There's the default mode network. This is the part that runs when you're not focused on a task. It wanders. It reflects. It connects the past to the present to the future. Scientists originally thought this was the resting brain, the idle brain. But here's what they discovered: this part of the brain never actually rests. It's always generating. And when you've trained yourself to overthink, the default mode network becomes a problem factory. Every time there's a gap, a pause, a silence, a moment of stillness, it fills the space with unfinished thoughts, worst-case scenarios, and hypothetical conversations. Not because those things matter, just because that's the groove it's worn for itself over years. The second mode is focused attention. This is when you're locked into something: a task, a conversation, a physical experience. When this mode is active, the problem factory quiets down. That's why exercise feels like relief. That's why cooking, cleaning, creating something with your hands, all of it, feels like breathing. Not because you love scrubbing dishes, because your focused attention mode has temporarily silenced the noise. The problem is, you can't stay in focused mode forever. And the moment you stop, the default mode network wakes back up like a dog that's been waiting all day for you to get home. Most people never learn this. So they spend their whole lives cycling between two states: mental overdrive and exhausted collapse with nothing in between. They never discover the third state, the one that changes everything. That third state has no dramatic name. Researchers call it open monitoring. You might call it presence. But here's what it actually feels like in real life. Imagine you're sitting on a bench in a park. You're not trying to solve anything. You're not reviewing the past or rehearsing the future. You're just watching. A kid drops an ice cream cone. A pigeon investigates a chip bag. Wind moves through the trees in a way that makes a sound you don't have a word for. Your mind registers all of this not as data to process, but as experience to receive. And in that moment, something subtle but enormous happens. Your nervous system stops treating life like a problem to be solved and starts treating it like something to be lived. That feeling isn't weakness. That's not you being unproductive. That's your brain finally working the way it was built to work. Now here's the insight that took researchers decades to understand, and that most people never hear. Your best thinking doesn't happen when you're trying to think. It happens when you stop. The neuroscience is real. During rest, during play, during physical movement, the brain consolidates information, makes connections across distant areas, and surfaces solutions that brute force thinking never reaches. Einstein was famous for playing violin when he was stuck. Darwin had a thinking path, a gravel trail he walked in circles when a problem wouldn't crack. Edison would sit in a chair holding a ball bearing in each hand, trying to fall into a light sleep the moment he dropped the bearings. He'd jolt awake and write down whatever his mind was doing in that in-between state. These weren't quirks, these were techniques. These men understood something your productivity culture never told you, that the brain solves hardest when it's allowed to rest. So what does this actually mean for you, sitting here in the middle of your life with a brain that won't quit? It means the solution is not more discipline. It's not more journaling, more productivity hacks, more apps that track your screen time. The solution is permission. Permission to stop narrating your own existence. Permission to let a moment be a moment without filing a mental report on it. Permission to sit with silence and not fill it with worry, with planning, with rehearsed conversations that will never happen exactly the way you imagine them. Think about how differently you move through a day when you're genuinely absorbed in something, when you're deep in a conversation that actually interests you, not performing listening, but actually in it you're not anxious. When you're cooking something new and your hands are busy and your nose is paying attention, you're not anxious. When you're laughing at something so stupid it doesn't deserve the laugh but gets it anyway, you're not anxious. The anxiety isn't your personality. The overthinking isn't who you are. It's what happens when your brain is unoccupied and has never been taught to be unoccupied without producing problems. Here's what changes once you actually get this. Once you understand that your brain is a trained animal, not a fixed identity, you stop fighting it and start redirecting it. You notice a thought loop starting the same argument you've been having in your head for 3 days, and instead of trying to resolve it through more thinking, you put your feet on the floor. Literally. Feel the texture. Notice the temperature. Press your weight down. For just a few seconds, you give your sensory system something real to do, and the loop pauses, not because you solved it, because you interrupted the circuit. That interruption, practiced consistently, is more powerful than any amount of self-analysis. Or you're lying awake at night, replaying a conversation, trying to figure out if you said something weird, or if someone's mad at you, or if you should have done something differently, and instead of engaging the thought, you name it, not out loud, just internally. There's the replay loop, and you notice it the way you'd notice a car alarm going off down the street. Present, annoying, not yours. You don't have to get in that car. You can acknowledge it exists and let it run out without opening a single door. These are not tricks. They are practices that over time change the actual structure of how your brain defaults. This is what neuroscientists mean when they say the brain is plastic. It reshapes based on what you do repeatedly. The more you interrupt the loop with presence, the weaker the loop gets. The more you allow silence without immediately filling it with noise, the more comfortable your nervous system becomes with that silence. You are not stuck with the brain you have been running. You are running software that can be updated. But here's the honest part: this doesn't happen fast. Real change in deep mental patterns takes weeks, sometimes months. Anyone selling you a 3-step fix to overthinking in 5 days is selling you a feeling, not a result. The result comes from doing small things: grounding, interrupting, naming, breathing, not once. When you feel inspired, but consistently when you don't. Especially when you don't. Especially on the days when the loop is loud and the silence feels impossible and your brain insists that this time, this worry is different. This one actually matters. This one you really do need to solve right now. That is exactly when the practice matters most. And that is exactly when most people give up and go back to thinking. You have been living in your head so long that coming back to your body, to the present moment, to actual experience, it might feel strange at first, almost boring. Because the mind that has been running on drama, on hypotheticals, on endless scenario building, that mind finds simplicity understimulating. A quiet Tuesday feels wrong. A moment of genuine peace feels like you're forgetting something. That discomfort is not a sign that stillness is bad for you. It's a sign that stillness is unfamiliar. There is a significant difference, and the only way through unfamiliar is through. So here is where I want to leave you. Not with a list, not with a challenge to meditate for 30 days. Just with this: the next time your brain starts running its loop, before you follow it, ask yourself one question. Is this thought useful right now, or is it just familiar? Because familiar and useful are not the same thing. Familiar is the groove your brain has worn smooth over years. Useful is the thought that actually helps you move. Most of what we call overthinking is just Familiarity dressed up as urgency. Your brain is not broken. It is loyal to a habit that no longer serves you. And habits, unlike identity, can be changed. You are not your thoughts. You are the one noticing them. And that noticing, that small gap between the thought and your response to it, that is where your actual life is waiting. If this hits something real in you, drop "I'm done running" in the comments. Not because it's a trend, because saying it out loud, even in a comment, is a small act of choosing differently. Share this with one person who needs to hear it, not because they're broken, because sometimes the most generous thing you can do for someone you love is hand them a little quiet.